If you have this gnawing feeling that your job might not be safe, then you probably should trust your gut and you're not paranoid. You have now two choices. Number one, you can continue doing nothing, hoping that you're imagining things, or continue to think that you're just too valuable, that what you do or what your team does cannot be cut by the company without losing something really important and essential. Or number two, you can step into action. You can wake up and understand what leverage you actually have right now, what choices you're left with, and then make a plan instead of leaving all the decisions up to your manager or your company, thinking that they will choose the best for you. I have to disappoint you. They probably couldn't care less about what you need and what you want. Over the last 20 years in HR, I've seen too many brilliant people who thought their job is safe lose their job anyways. And with it, some of their self-confidence, and a lot of time and money. I don't want this to happen to you. So if you're just a little bit anxious that you might not have this job in this company in 6 months, then this video is for you. The 10 to 15 minutes it takes to watch this video can save you a lot of heartache, definitely minimize some of the uncertainty you feel right now, and give you an exact roadmap that you can tailor to what you need and what you want, so you walk away with the best deal possible. Now you probably ask yourself, how do I really know if I'm about to lose my job? What are the corporate signals and signs that you should be looking out for? There are only 3 ways you can leave a company, and I'm gonna go over the 3 different exits and what is distinguished and what are the signals for each. So even though the company hasn't made a large announcement yet, you can definitely tell which bucket you will be in. The first are PIPs and terminations. Most likely you won't be fired unless you do something really egregious that would warrant a firing on the spot. Most people get put on a PIP, a performance improvement plan. This is a mechanism for the company to manage you out, you personally. They want to get rid of you. They give you a performance improvement plan that is laid out for the next 30 to 60 days, according to which you're supposed to change and improve. There are several flags that let you know if you're about to be put on a PIP, or even during the PIP that this will end in termination. A lot of people have the misconception that the PIP is there to genuinely coach them into better performance and that they have a chance to retain their job if they just comply with the PIP, but that couldn't be further from the truth. It's simply a legal mechanism to make sure they have documentation in place and you can sue them for wrongful termination after the PIP has completed. So some of the flags are that your manager is changing their behavior towards you. You're left out of important meetings, you're not included anymore, nothing you do is the right thing, you get potentially micromanaged, or the manager completely distances themselves from you and avoids interactions. Another flag is that your job is changing. They try to demote you, so you resign and they don't have to go through the PIP. They're implying that you're no longer up for the job. So they're taking either things away, and the other strategy is to dump more stuff on you because they're saying this is what other people do, which is not true. But they're making sure that you're completely overwhelmed and you cannot possibly comply with the PIP demands and reach the goals that they stipulated. They're also talking very differently about your performance. If you say, I've been a high performer for the last 2 years, nobody has said anything to me in the past, now all of a sudden they just critique and criticize your performance, and definitely document it as well, where you missed deadlines or project outcomes or goals. A more vicious sign is reputation changes. If they're trying to get you out, they need to document this also in front of others. So I've seen cases where people get humiliated on purpose in public, in meetings, so that others see how you're failing. So you get set up to maybe present and don't have all the information. There are a lot of mean traps. The intent is always to undermine your reputation and showcase to others that you're no longer a top performer. Now, if the company is planning to get rid of several people at the same time, they choose for a layoff. If you're looking around of what's happening in your organization, you can see all the flags and all the signs. Very often they coincide with a lot of top management changes and cost reductions. Last year, everybody was on a spending spree. This year, nobody has money for anything. Nobody is traveling. Nobody is going anywhere. All the perks are going away. That means that company is drastically reorientating themselves to improve their finances, and mass layoffs can cut costs. If there were previous layoffs, there will be more layoffs. Most companies underestimate how many people people they really have to cut to get the savings that they're looking for. And if you see increased turnover, people changing jobs, people moving into other teams, people leaving, announcement of so-and-so pursued other opportunities, these are all either quiet resignations. These were people that were terminated. And so this is the beginning of the wave of sorting out people who are first low performers to pay them nothing to get them out. Now you might find yourself also in a personal situation where things just become unbearable, but we tolerate a lot. So here are flags of what your personal situation could be that prompts you to manage yourself out, basically to quit and resign. The most common reason I hear from people in exit interviews of why they're quitting is they have no growth. They're just working, but their manager is not interested in helping them get up the ladder or achieve anything. They somehow plateaued in their job as well. They're either bored, exhausted, overworked, tired. They're just done with their current job, but there's nowhere where they could move to. It's time to leave. Now, even though these signals are pretty loud and obvious to an outsider, people tend to ignore them and talk themselves out of it. This is a normal behavior that would fall under a freeze response, not taking action, not thinking about it, pushing the thoughts away, hoping that nothing bad will happen is a normal reaction. We can tolerate a lot. We want to do anything to avoid pain, and conflict and friction is pain. But I want you to take a moment and see if you do any of the following things, which are all indicators of a freeze pattern. It paralyzes you. It stops you from taking action. But if you see it, if you can name it, then you can move forward. Most people want more certainty. They want the manager to stand in front of them and say, there will be a layoff next Tuesday. Well, next Tuesday would be too late for you to do anything about it. Lack of certainty keeps people frozen. Then it's very easy to slip into denial. I am too valuable. This job is too important. This is not happening. This is a protective measure where we just avoid looking at all the flags and the signals. People leaving left and right, not us. Not right now. We can't, because the alternative of we having to do something or being confronted is just too freaking scary. And maybe it will stay quiet. Maybe this will still stay over there. Denial is a powerful behavior pattern. Now, some clever people think they can outwork themselves out of an exit, whether this is a PIP or you thinking you can avoid that you need to quit because you're just worth it all of a sudden that the company invests in you, or being spared from a layoff. Working harder is a fantastic strategy that guarantees absolutely nothing. Some of these things that happen in organizations are completely random, make no sense whatsoever, and yet they happen. So working harder is only damaging you and keeps you from taking any action whatsoever. A scary one that people don't want to talk about is that fear and shame loop that they're stuck in. The idea of not having a job is terrifying. Their identity goes with them. What if I don't get a job? What will my family say? The disappointment of losing a job. If you get laid off, the shame is tremendous, even though none of it was your fault. Being put on a PIP often has other motives, has nothing to do with your actual performance. Who knows what the company is thinking or why they feel like you are no longer part of the team. But that shame and fear loop is powerful to keep you stuck and avoiding from you taking action. My favorite part is when people bargain. I see people bargain or trying to bargain during the PIP process. You made a mistake. This is a misunderstanding. If you just knew what I really intended, they think there is still power on their side where they can bring the right argument that would change somebody's mind, that would change their manager's mind, that would change HR's mind. Even in layoffs, when the person is confronted with the paperwork and said, your access to your laptop is already cut off, you need to leave the premise, people cannot believe it and still try to bargain and say, you're a company with 100,000 employees, you need to find me a job in this organization. And it's not about that job, it's about that whole team being cut. Bargaining is definitely that last minute response, still keeps you paralyzed and stuck where you're at. The last pattern I see most frequently is when people choose to become small and say, if I don't cause any problems, if I am just quiet, if I just keep my opinion to myself, if I keep my head down, if I just do what they want me to do, if I work harder, if I'm just as small as I possibly can be, I won't be part of whatever is happening. Again, it's a miscalculation that just costs you time and money. So the question is, what can you actually do? What is actually in your power right now? Not knowing which exit might happen to you, will it even happen, and when? My suggestion question is to come up with a 2 to 4 months plan. In order to come up with an action plan that works for you, you need to answer 4 questions. So first, you need to know as best as you can with the information you have, what exit is most likely for you. Is it so unbearable for you at work that you think nonstop about quitting? You just don't have the guts yet or don't know yet how to move forward, but you really dread every Monday morning? Or do you see a lot of organizational changes? Or is the relationship with your manager drastically changing? If you can answer this, then you will have a timeline and you can start deciding of what you will negotiate. What is for you the best deal under the circumstances with that exit? Because not everything is open under all exits. The second question is, what will be your next career chapter? This is the time to really think about the big vision for your life. And then you also think about who will be on your winning team. Who is your dream team that will help you through this next transitions? One of them are recruiters. Some of them is your family. Some of them is your loose network of people you've worked with in the past. You need to start thinking about everybody who can enable and support you in this transition. The most pragmatic question is the one of what you need to prepare. In general, you prepare all the documentation that you'll need to collect all your work portfolios, your metrics, your goals, everything that is valuable to you at work, as well as your negotiation strategy. So you put together what you ideally would like, how you go about it, when would you ask for that, what is the timeline for asking for something. The other part is figuring out your finances. What's your budget? How much will you negotiate in your exit? What are the costs? What is your runway? I have a longer video on just coping with layoffs that talks a lot about the financial impact of a layoff and how to minimize negative impact of a layoff. So your financial picture is extremely important to have during this transition phase. And lastly, I want you to think about what could go wrong. A lot of people are afraid to talk about things that could go sideways because they think that will make them happen. We're not manifesting here, but you need a plan B. So if you don't want to think about what could go wrong, think about what is an alternative path. What is plan B and C? If you're an engineer, you probably need a plan D as well. When you think about what could go wrong is you don't get the negotiated portions of what you want. What is a compromise? How would you pivot? There will be problems. It will not be smooth sailing. But if you put your biggest fears, which is basically what could go wrong as your brain starts generating what is my biggest fear, on paper, the fear becomes smaller. The more you can stay in mode of I'm doing a business transaction versus this evil company is ruining my life, the better for you. The more you have on your side logic and reason, and you can stay cool as a cucumber and play the game your way. On this slide, I put together in general what you can negotiate in each situation. They're all different. A lot will ride on where you live because there are state laws that vary from state to state. It depends on your tenure with the company and also what your hierarchy level is. You have different perks as a director than you have as an engineer level 3 or as an entry level person. Even by function, you have different perks. So it's really important to know your personal situation, but it will give you a starting point. Start chatting with ChatGPT and figure out what you can negotiate. If you want loan forgiveness, if you have any subscriptions, if you want to have the right to sue them, there are a lot of things you need to consider of what you sign, what language you use, how you negotiate anything, and when you do it. But this will give you a roadmap of where to look or what even to think about before you go into a negotiation. Now you think you're probably done. Maybe you feel a little bit better. Maybe you feel worse because you're thinking, oh my God, there's a lot of things I have to do. Well, the news doesn't get any better. I have more bad news for you. I'm sorry. The bad news is that this is a journey. Wait, there's more. I have to tell you one more thing. You need to know this. Anybody familiar with Seth Godin's work knows when he talks about the dip. And the dip is part of any journey or any experience, any transformation. Anytime you travel from A to B, there will be a dip. The dip is really about grief and loss and disconnecting and moving forward. It's your lowest point in this entire experience. It starts out right now with uncertainty, so you're somewhere in the middle of the curve. You're still hopeful. You don't know yet what's coming, so uncertainty is keeping you a little bit balanced. If you are encouraged by this video, you will take some action. because you want to hedge your bets and you want to be smart and use time and leverage. Good for you. So you're going up in the curve a little bit because you're feeling you're doing something and you're out of paralysis, and now you're gonna go into a little roller coaster of a dip, because when reality starts hitting, you start sliding down. It is a lot to lose your job and to quit your job and to move on for a company because you had all these hopes and dreams and you were holding on. And now reality hits that this is the end. Anytime there is an end, there is grief, there is loss, there is separation, so you're gonna hit it. But this is not the worst of it. The worst is still to come. The worst is when you start hitting doubt. Did you make the right decision? What will I ever do? When doubt, self-doubt, doubt in others, doubt in the future, doubt in anything hopeful creeps in, you know you hit the bottom of this dip. And celebrate, because it's the bottom. It's gonna have to go up from there, because as you put one foot in front of the other, you come out of the dip. As you transition, whether you're still in job search or you already have found your next chapter, you will find your self-confidence again. You will come out and you know this was temporary, and you reach the height of excitement when you can look back and it's behind you. When you are at the peak and you can say, I really made it through a really difficult time. 3 months ago, I didn't know what's gonna happen. I took control. I made something happen. I feel so much better now because now you are back in certainty, but the dip will happen. I hope this was valuable. I hope you leave some comments if I missed something important. Again, this is not legal advice. This is my HR perspective of what I recommend young professionals to do who are confronted with this for the first time. If you want more information on specifics during a layoff, I have a separate video on that. And otherwise, I'll see you next time.